Maybe less or more than a decade ago, the 3DS was still on my radar and I played it almost religiously. Games like Pokemon and Kid Icarus were ones I returned to every time I had a chance, and I still had my copy of Smash 4. 2 years later I got my hands on a Switch, and suddenly I had a new love. But fast forward to a year later and some new friends I made on Discord would open my eyes to a new but old title on the 3DS that, like a total fool, I completely disregarded and missed the golden years of playing, Yo-Kai Watch. In terms of gameplay and story, it's a little similar to Pokemon, which was my turnoff at the time. Why would I play a Pokemon-like game when I had a bunch of the games at home already? It wasn't until I actually bought the first game on Amazon at the urgency of my friends that I realized, wow, this is nothing like Pokemon. The gameplay is different when you actually try to obtain yokai, and the battles are different too. Instead of throwing a device to capture these monsters, you befriend them, and battles take place on a grid with 3 of your yokai out at the same time. I could go on about the game, but this video isn't only about these guys. Last year, when this video was supposed to come out, I decided October would be a perfect time for a seasonal video. I didn't finish it till February of this year. I would combine the game about the magical monsters that I fight with the game and magical spirit creatures that fight, and do a yokai themed Nuzlocke. The rules are simple. If a Pokemon faints, it's dead and you must bury it either in a box or released. You also have to name every Pokemon you catch to make your bond with it strong, so when it dies, it hits harder. Aside from that, I have my own rules in place. You can't heal a Pokemon that's in battle. You can only catch one Pokemon on a single route or other location. One raid Pokemon allowed per area. You can catch a Pokemon of the same line as the one you lost, but only an Evo or a Prevo, no repeats. No Pokemon camping or curry, no legendaries, deaths and scripted fights and max raids don't count. You can absolutely catch a Pokemon that you accidentally KO in a wild encounter, but only that same species. And battle items like X Attack can be used, but only once in a champion battle. So without further ado, here's my yokai only Nuzlocke. I just finished watching a champion match on my Rotom phone when my excitable neighbor Hop breaks down my door and drags me outside to get my starter. Walking past a Wooloo that seems to crave its freedom, that's a surprise tool that'll help us later. We walk down the road to see Leon, Hop's brother and the champion, surrounded by fans boasting about how he's undefeatable and nobody can dethrone him. I can't wait to absolutely destroy his team. He takes us back home and gives us a chance to pick our starter. 3 of them that are based on animals that I don't think are yokai, but I remembered an old Japanese folktale of a rabbit on the moon, so I picked Scorbunny. Your name is Bugs now. Hope you like the bench! After winning my first battle with Hop and getting access to the PC and Pokemon Home, I did some shenanigans and traded myself an egg that would hatch into my starter, Mawile. I like Mawile a lot. It's one of my favorite Pokemon. I mean, just look at that face. It's definitely up there with Alcremie and Tinkaton for my favorite fairy types. But one isn't a yokai and the other is from a different region, so welcome aboard Kanekui Hime. Kanekui Hime is from a game that never came to the US, and it isn't a straight rip of the Fudokuchi Onna that Mawile is based on, but she has mouse in her hair, so it's close enough. After doing more of the story and getting my Dynamax band, I backtracked to the train station to catch a Galarian Slowpoke. Galarian Slowbro and Slowking are some of the heaviest hitters in the game, and having one on my team would definitely help against Leon since they trade the water for poison later. So I did all I could to catch the Stopigal, who I named Doya Osa, another yokai from the same game as Kanekui Hime that walks around with a shell on its head, hoping I could get a Galarian Slowking down the line. After that, I decided the next yokai I want to hunt is Smoochum, which is based on Kintaro and evolves into Jinx, based on the Yama-Uba, who looked after Kintaro in the legends, not specifically yokai from the games. But Snaggly is a close second. So after willingly losing a scripted fight and being forced to weigh in on family drama, I go around gathering watts to get a wishing piece to hunt for Smoochum. On the way to catching Smoochum, I run into a Sneasel that I named Whirlweasel, and a Nuzleaf that I named Tengu Original. The team was already looking nice, and all I needed was to not die on the way to Smoochum's den. Lucky for me, I found it right away without having to reset my date or anything. Don't look at me like that! Smoochum was fairly easy to catch thanks to Kaneko-hime. Having a steel type really helps for sure. So once I caught her, I named her Snaggly and went back to the route before the professor's house to catch a rowdy little guy I named T-Stroyer. You know, because he's a Tanuki. With my team at a max of 6, I kept going with the story and ran into Team Yell after signing up at the register. I put up a bit of a fight, but having Kaneko-hime let me breeze right through each fight thanks to Fairy Wind. Having a fairy type so early in the game definitely makes things much easier, since Zigzagoon and Nickit are so common. And the steel typing definitely helps just as much. So after talking to Marnie and heading over to watch a cutscene after a nap, I decided to hunt for Barboach. The reason being that one of my favorite yokai is called the Onamazu, a giant catfish said to be the cause of all of Japan's earthquakes. Just the idea that a giant catfish is wiggling around right under Japan, making the earth split in two anytime it gets mad, sounds so cool as a monster. And I know there was one yokai in the games that you can't befriend, but you can fight. I wanted one. So I tried fishing for one in the town reservoir, and it definitely took me a while longer than I thought I wanted. I think I may have wiped out the entire town's Magikarp population in a single night or something. After hours of fishing, I decided to hunt Barboach later, and made my way to the next town before battling Hop, and running into a new Pokemon, Vulpix. I knew it would be a while before I found a Firestone, but I couldn't pass up an opportunity to use Vulpix in the upcoming gym battle, so I named her QB and pressed on.
Hello, it's me. I just decided that things are going a bit too smoothly, and I'm gonna mess it up!
After some more battles, I ran into a kid and his Sizzlipede. I had no idea what horror I would witness next. I sent out QB and the battle was going well until I got hit with Rap. You see, Rap is a move that hits each turn until it stops, and after getting hit by Rap, you can't switch out unless you have an item for it. So QB was in a race against the clock to knock out her opponent before she could die from chip damage. A race she would end up losing. I had my first death. QB wasn't on the team for very long, but she was pulling her weight throughout the entire time she was with us. I had high hopes for her potential, even as far as the Leon fight. Unfortunately, her time with us was cut short by the hands of some dumb kid's bug. You will be missed. T-Stroyer would kill the Sizzlipede, and Whirlweasel would end his Dottler. And after that, we said our goodbyes to our fallen comrade and took Tengu Original out to replace her, hoping that anyone listening we wouldn't lose her too. Battle after battle through the mine would lead us up to B. Biggest example of privilege in this game. This grandma-haired goon bragged about how much better and more important he was compared to me because he was endorsed by the chairman, and how beating me would be fast and easy, which only fueled my drive to put his team in the dirt. Which I did. After we battled more trainers outside the mine, we run into a rabid cat on 2 legs, which I catch. Look, it's a bipedal cat that ran into me. We can't do a Yo-Kai Watch Nuzlocke without our mascot, so I'm naming him Jibanyan. Milazwooloo runs me over after that, and I follow more plot stuff and head into the gym to fight my first gym leader. Thankfully, we breezed through this gym without losing anybody, thanks to Snaggly knowing Ice Beam and Kaneko-hime being a steel tank, which scares me for the next gym, a gym that always gives folks a hard time. On our way to the next gym, we fight a news crew and find an Esper that we named Safinyan, and evolve Tengu Original into a Shiftry. Then we run into Team Yell again, and Kaneko-hime wipes the floor with both of them. I'm starting to think a fairy type might be OP in this game. We saved this doctor that they were harassing, so he gives us a bike to ride. Now I can travel faster, and oh yeah, Hop is waiting for me. Yay. We deal with Hop once again before fighting more trainers and winning. Then we get into Hulbury and witness Chairman Rose in what looks like a very silly disguise. We're heading to find Nessa, who's hanging out at the lighthouse. After we meet Nessa, we head back over to the gym and do the challenge before heading into the fight. Now, this fight is probably the most stressful so far. I've been on Easy Street and only lost a single Pokemon. I was due for a wake-up call. Fortunately, I didn't lose anyone in this time, and I narrowly avoided losing Jabanion. After a meeting with the chairman, I fight Bede in the tunnel and swiftly whoop his butt, all while he keeps bragging and gloating. At some point, kid, you have to understand I'm better than you, right? After I do some fishing for Barboach and eventually I find one, I name it Tantrum after the NPC yokai you fight in the games. A few battles and trainers and Team Yell later, and we make it out of the cave. Unfortunately, this is where the journey takes another dark turn, as Doya Yosa would lose her life to a critical hit from a Swoobat. There goes my chance at a Galarian Slow King, lost to a random critical hit from a Swoobat. Kaneko Hime would avenge her fallen sister, and we'd bury Doya Osa in the PC afterwards, swapping her place with T-Stroyer. Thankfully, the officer after that was a breeze, and it was just a straight line to the end where Marnie was waiting for me. It was a close call, but Kaneko Hime and Tantrum pulled through for us in the end. Also thanks to Marnie, Safi9 evolved into a Meowstic, and T-Stroyer evolved into a Linoon. Before the fight with Kabu, I decided to find a new water type at the Isle of Armor. We fight Clara for a bit, before I make my way to the soothing wetlands to see if I can find a Lickitung in the grass for rollout. I find one and I name her Tublappa. Then I move on to see if I can find a Psyduck. I dodge the strong wild Pokemon and head over to the beach and find a Psyduck that I name Wakappa. Now that we have the Pokemon we were looking for, it's time for some training. A few max raid battles and EXP candies later, and Tublappa becomes a Licky that I rename Lappin' It Up. Now comes time for the gym battle. We go in and I start catching Sizzlipede, and eventually succeed and I name her Irewig, adding her to the team. Now that we finish the gym challenge, it's time to fight Kabu. Kabu's gym is less difficult than it could have been, and Irewig levels up quickly. Now that we've done all that, it's time for the gameplay to kick itself up a notch, meaning more grinding time. In the middle of the grind, I find a Duskull that I name Numskull, evolve Irewig into a Centiskorch and rename her Firewig, and catch a Snorunt that I name Frostina. My plan is to use Numskull until she ends up losing her life, or Frostina will come in and take her place. But hopefully that won't happen too soon. I make my way to the next town and pass Bede, who proudly proclaims how he bullied and mocked Hop in their battle that he proudly won, which I have to say is barely worth the pride. Hop is by no means a terrible trainer, but he's not an expert either. I think winning against Hop is kind of just as likely as losing, but I digress. Speedrunning through the expedition, and I come across Team Yell again, trying to keep a Silicobra asleep, and Hop isn't far behind. After the battle, Hop reveals that Bede really got to him, and he seems really depressed about it. Buddy, relax. Bede is gutter trash, you shouldn't let him get to you. But seriously though, you ought to do some grinding with that if that kid with the old lady hair and the only psychic types beat you that bad. Just saying. A few battles after that, and Snaggly evolves into Jinx, named Winona, and Tantrum evolves into Whiscash, meaning I almost have a full evolved team. After going through another route, we make our way to Stoneside and the fighting gym, but not before Hop challenges us to a battle. Sad to see, it looks like he's Box's starter. It's probably why my team beats him so easily. But fortunately, he's still inspired to keep training. After dealing with the gym's pachinko puzzle and fighting the trainers in it, I step up to the pitch for quite possibly the hardest gym battle so far. You see, in the anime, B was Ash's first actual challenge in the Journey seasons, one that actually got a rise out of him too. First in the anime's original run since Trip in Black and White. And in the games, she's still quite tough, with her ace being the biggest hurdle of the battle, meaning I was almost guaranteed to lose a Pokemon here. I stepped up to Barefoot McGee and challenged her to a battle, leading with Numskull to get Will-O-Wisp out on Hitmontop to reduce it to tap, following up with Nightshade. So far so good. I sent out Kaneko Hime to deal with Pangoro since Fairy Wind did 4 times damage, despite her being a physical Pokemon. And thankfully we didn't lose our starter. But we did lose our ace in the hole thanks to Circle Throw, which took out more than half of her HP and swapped her with Safinan, who finished Pangoro off with Fake Out. Surfetch was next, and I had Firewig stack Coils for the next attack, a Flame Wheel that did the job nicely. All that was left was Machamp, and I knew I had to sacrifice someone, So the heavy heart, I sent out Safinan to take one for the team. After trading blows with G-Max Machamp, Safinan took a hard-hitting Max Darkness and fell. My third death on this mostly deathless run. I knew this wasn't going to be easy, and if there was a gym I thought I'd lose a Pokemon at, it was either this one or Kabu's gym. Thank you, Safi. You did the best you could. After that, Tantrum finished Machamp off with a powerful waterfall, winning me the battle. I swapped back in Tengu Original just in time to see Bede smugly committing vandalism with the chairman's own Pokemon. His greed sickens me. I decide to put a stop to his crimes, which earns the chairman's attention and gets him disqualified from the gym challenge. Yes! Justice for Hop! I certainly hope he doesn't come back later in the story to derail it or anything. After some more exposition and a trip through the Glimwood Tangle and a new capture in a phantom I named Chimatree, I find my way to Balonlia, where the fairy gym is, and finally evolve Numbskull into Dusclops with a renamed Skill Skull. And then I grab a Reaper Cloth to evolve her into Dusk Noir. The gym was actually fairly easy thanks to Firewig and Kanekui Hime, the only hard part being Opal's Togekiss, and we squeaked by for a win. We then walked back to Hammerlock after evolving Chimachi into Trevenant, and I witnessed Bede getting even more comeuppance and getting dragged into Opal's whole pink thing. Arceus is smiling upon me. After training in the wild area and fighting Hop again, and evolving Jabonion into Berserker, renamed Thornion, I make my way to Sirchester Gym to fight Gordy, after going through the both prior routes and fighting tough trainers along the way. Before that, I catch a Dorumaka that I named Dorumacho. One dowsing puzzle later, and gym trainer gauntlet later, and I'm face to face with Gordy, whose Colossal will definitely be a hurdle for my team. Almost everyone being weak to fire and only Skill Skull being enough to deal the damage. Thankfully, Gordy is actually pretty simple to figure out, and I beat all of his Pokemon fairly easily, including Colossal, who goes down instantly with a Max Quake from Tantrum. After some grinding and a quick battle with Hop, it's finally time to head down to face Piers, not before a quick confrontation with Team Yell, who's bothering this poor doctor again. This man cannot catch a break. He's always being harassed by these people, and I always have to come and save him. But at least now my bike can travel on water. Once we get to the Spikemouth gate, Marnie sneaks us back in after the battle, which wasn't too bad after the last one. Now it's time to challenge Piers, the only gym leader in Galar who doesn't Dynamax his Pokemon. On the way to the arena, I catch a glimpse of the grunts without their face paint, and these girls are pretty, what the heck? Now that I've made it to Piers and gotten a glimpse of why these gyms need voice acting, I fight for my second to last badge. Piers definitely puts up a fight, mostly Obstagoon and Malamar, but the latter going down with a perfectly timed Sucker Punch from Kanekui Hime. After taking down Skuntank with Tantrum, I earned my second to last badge, inching ever closer to taking down Leon. Once we get back to Hammerlock after some more story stuff, it's time to head over and start challenging Raihan. My team is ready, and I am too. The gym trainers thankfully fight one at a time, giving us time to breathe and relax between. Once they're taken care of, Raihan is next. The last gym leader doesn't necessarily use a specific type, even though he's a dragon trainer, relying mainly on weather setups. So I have to be smart about this one. The battle goes well to start. I take out his first Pokemon to get rid of Sandstorm, but Duraludon is the real trouble. I try using Tengu Original's help with the battle, but she barely survives a Max Knuckle. So she gets swapped with Kanekui Hime, and a Max Quake does barely enough, only helped by a previous Brick Break, to take out the giant dragon and win me my last badge. A buttload of story later and I'm in Winden. Heading up with my Pokemon, and heading into the stadium for the preliminaries, my first of two battles is Marnie again, but this time I'm ready. Because she has a Gigantamax Pokemon that could put me to sleep, but it's nothing my starter can't handle. My Pokemon plow through her team before Grimmsnarl comes out and Gigantamaxes, making Kanekui Hime do the same, using her newly learned Max Speel Spike to end the battle before I can even hit her. Next is my final battle with Hop, something that's been a long time coming with how hard he's had it. Surprisingly, Skill Skull takes most of the wins before Firewig finished off Rillaboom and wins me the battle. Unfortunately, my finals gauntlet has to wait, so I can beat up one of Oleana's employees 3 different times, as well as plenty of others before facing Oleana herself. The only thing standing between me and Leon. Before I faced Rose Tower's army of lackeys, however, I went down to the Isle of Armor to get some max soup for Firewig, so she can Gigantamax in the next battles to come. Now, I fight Oleana. I have a counter for almost every Pokemon she has, and thankfully Tengu Original survives Frostlass, which leads into Salazzle, who falls to my Tantrum's Earthquake. Tantrum takes a powerful Surf attack before hitting hard with Thrash and Earthquake, and Wynonna deals with G-Max Garbodor with a powerful Max Mindstorm, winning the battle. Another story cutscene slideshow later, and it's finally time for the finals. Before I can start, however, Bade once again jumps in to steal a spotlight and challenge me for a rematch. And what a surprise, a lot of hard work did nothing and I wiped the floor with him. Now I can start the finals. Starting with Nessa, who has a few new Pokemon with a newly obtained G-Max Dreadnought. Thankfully, I brought a Grass type, which deals swift damage with Dreadnought and wins a battle. No deaths so far. I think I'm safe for now. B is the next battle, and for someone who gives Nuzlockers a world of trouble, she was also chump change, making me a tad scared for the next battles. Raihan tries setting up a mix of sun, rain, and sand, but some quick thinking helps me cheese through it and helps Firewig take out Norelodon. Now that that's over, Leon is next, but not before Rose sets off a nuke in every stadium by unleashing a massive alien dragon on the Galar region, prompting me to head to the woods behind my house to grab a rusted sword and challenge that crazy man to a battle. The battle with Rose would have been tough if I didn't have Earthquake and Firelash on Tantrum and Firewig, who deal with all of Rose's Pokemon before me and Hop head up to the roof to see Eternatus transform for battle. After being locked out of moves, 2 giant dogs come to our aid, and with the power of friendship and 2 good boys, I catch Eternatus and save the world, or at least Galar. I can't use it, so it gets put away in the box forever. Now comes the final battle, the one to decide it all. Me versus Leon. Let's do this. Firewig jukes Aegislash into using King Shield and takes it out the following turn, but Leon sends out Inteleon, so I swap into Tengu Original. She tanks a Snipe Shot before retaliating with Leaf Blade, taking out the Water type. Unfortunately, I know the power of Dragon Bolt, so I have to sacrifice Firewig to ensure the Ghost Dragon goes down to save my team. And in an act of revenge, Tantrum avenges her fallen sister. Haxorus gets sent out, and Leon tries to take out Skill Skull with Outrage, but I nerf it with Will-O-Wisp and gamble on an Earthquake the turn after Kanekui Hime gets swapped in. Following that with a Play Rough to take out the Axe Dragon, Mr. Rime is next, and Wynonna is perfect for this, as she tanks a Thunderbolt before I predict another and swap in Tantrum to eat it. I swap out Tantrum into Skill Skull to save her. The Skill Skull eats a Freeze Dry. Wynonna gets sent out in her place and tanks a Psychic and Thunderbolt as I heal Skill Skull and finally take out Mr. Rime with a Rock Tomb. Sadly, the Rock Tomb doesn't kill, and in order to finish it off, I have to sacrifice someone to heal Skill Skull for Charizard. So Tengu Original takes one for her sisterhood. Finally, Mr. Rime goes down like a sack of cards, and all that's left is Charizard. Both our Pokemon grow to giants, and it looks like I have the upper hand, until Skill Skull gets hit with a Max Wildfire and gets taken out. Suddenly my plan is falling apart at the seams. Tantrum feels like a good choice to send out, before she falls as well to Max Overgrowth. And I'm now down to 2 Pokemon. Both are weak to fire, and Charizard has a speed boost from Max Airstream. But I trust Kanekui Hime. She was my starter. She's won every battle she's been in, and she's never failed me once. So with a smile on my face and confidence in my heart, I send out Kanekui Hime as Charizard shrinks down to normal size, and with my last chance, I tell her to use Sucker Punch, which deals the final blow and ends Leon's reign of terror for good. The challenge is over. I never once wiped, and even though most of my team was in a better place, 2 of the Sisterhood's best girls survived. Leon was forever humbled, and I had beaten the Yo-Kai only Nuzlocke. Thank you all so much for watching. I have another theme run planned for this year, so keep your eyes open. You've all made it this far. So please don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos. Until then, peace out, have a good one.